Hello, and welcome to our show, To Disagree, where two people sit down and agree to disagree. So, on today's episode of To Disagree, the topic of discussion is going to be minimalism, which is one of my favorite topics for a very particular reason, being the fact that I am a minimalist, which is super exciting to me. So, in case you guys don't know, I actually used to have a blog about minimalism. I do still have a blog. However, I've decided to have it include my podcast and a few other topics of discussion, but that doesn't mean that minimalism isn't still very important to me and isn't the lifestyle that I currently lead, because it definitely is. And in case you guys don't know about my journey into minimalism, I'll give you a brief little history, but if you want to read it fully, I would suggest actually checking out my blog, because my full journey into minimalism is written on there. However, to give you guys a brief explanation, I became a minimalist when I was about, I want to say 16 years old, maybe 17 or 18, in and around there. And what prompted me to become a minimalist was I actually used to be a bit of a hoarder, to be completely frank. And that lifestyle wasn't conducive to what was going on in my life at the time. I moved out at a very young age. And unfortunately, when you move out at a very young age, you find yourself moving around quite often. The reason being for a multitude of reasons, partly because, living in party houses isn't super stable and not super fun. So I was constantly finding myself moving, and I just would get so annoyed having to pack up all of my things in like garbage bags at times, because that's how quick I would have to move. And it just became very frustrating. And finally, I got so sick of it that I decided I should purge my things. And when I first started purging my things, that feeling felt so refreshing to me, and I actually started becoming addicted to that actual feeling. And that sounds really bizarre, but it's the only way that I could describe it. Was it felt like a release. And I was doing this before, we had internet on our phones. So like, I wasn't really able to research what that lifestyle was. I mean, I certainly could go on a computer and like look it up a little bit more in depth, but I just wasn't like super aware of what minimalism even was. I just thought that I was like really into getting rid of my things. And then eventually through my journey, I ended up, having more access to, internet, because it became available on our phones, and at the touch of my fingertips, I could easily research things. And then I eventually realized what minimalism was and learnt that I was actually living that lifestyle. And through learning that I was living that lifestyle, I just threw myself into it even further. And now I'm a full-on minimalist, and I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't change a thing about it.
So today's topic's about minimalism, which I'm personally staunchly against. More in the way like, I don't think denying myself something that most people would see as ridiculous is what I traditionally do. Like, I amass a lot of stuff, and I do regularly purge, but it's a very wasteful way of purging. Mm-hmm. I'm not really winning this argument or planning on it, because there really isn't a way, but I'm definitely gonna find out a good point why I'm not a minimalist and why I don't think a lot of people should be.
Okay, so tell me why you're not a minimalist.
Well, it's just saying no to myself, or worrying about my ecological footprint. Yes, I am aware I recycle, but really our recycling's just a blue garbage can. Mm-hmm. Because most of it gets thrown away anyway.
Well, don't get me started on like the recycling in this city, because it's not. That's another subject, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it really is. And it's almost like society's beaten me down to this point where it's like, why am I even trying to help the planet? And so one of the main reasons I am not a minimalist is because I don't see the point, because nobody else, like the whole population, won't just one day switch over.
Yeah, the universe as a whole, we're not minimalists for the most part, especially in North American society. Just to like fill you in slightly, I've been a minimalist since I was probably, I would say 17 is when I started for sure. And I'm 28 now. So that's 11 years. And in my entire 11 years of being a minimalist, I have not once told somebody that I'm a minimalist and then they also tell me that they're a minimalist. It's never happened in this entire 11 years. So that's pretty insane to me that in this entire time I have not met somebody that's also like, oh yeah, I'm a minimalist as well, or even trying to have a journey into minimalism slightly. Nobody's ever said that to me.
Well, we are North Americans, so we're wired a very particular way. Excess is the best. Christmas is just us amassing things for our houses that are, we'll play with, or our kids will play with, and it'll eventually become obsolete, and then we'll throw it out.
Yeah, which is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely not. But I'm going to be dead long before it matters.
Yeah. And with that being said, minimalism is definitely more sustainable. And what's absolutely shocking to me is we live in a society right now that our generation is so hyper-focused on sustainability. And I'm actually shocked with the fact that I have yet to run into a person that is also a minimalist. We definitely have people that I know are trying to live more sustainable lives, but it's just shocking to me that they don't realize that minimalism is a way of sustainable living. And if you are a minimalist, naturally, you're going to be living a more sustainable life. Because with me, I am very hyper focused on minimalism as a whole, but also being sustainable. And what I used to not be as good at before, I'm getting better at slowly. So when I was younger, I didn't really understand that quality over quantity mattered, because I was young. I wasn't making a lot of money, obviously, so I couldn't really take the time to invest my money into things that would last longer, But as I've grown older and have developed my thoughts on minimalism, I've realized that it's better to invest in quality pieces that are going to last me for years to come. Yes, it may be a little bit more expensive to purchase right off the bat, but I know that it's going to last me for much longer than fast fashion, for example, if we're talking about the fashion world. Additional to that, I tend to keep things longer, with electronics. I had a laptop for 10 years. 10 years, which is pretty unheard of when it comes to laptops, most people get a new laptop every 3 to 5 years. And for me, I would much rather fix and repair the item that I have so that I can use it for longer before just throwing it away. And that's what I did. And I know, I'm personally a tech person, so I know how to deal with computers, and I know some people don't, so I understand I have that ability over others, but I will still try to invest in pieces and do my best to repair pieces that I own if possible, because it's leaving less of a footprint first and foremost, and additional to that, I have to buy less when I'm investing in quality pieces overall. And I guess it just boggles me as a whole that our generation is so hyper focused on sustainability. That's a number one topic to talk about right now. I hear it everywhere, And it just shocks me that more people aren't like, yeah, I'm a minimalist, like, because it's more sustainable, like, you know?
I mean, that would just mean they have to do the work, which
Yes.
is something our generation, yes, we're hyper focused on sustainability, but we're also one of the laziest generations to have ever been created.
Which is so sad to me, because if you want something, you have to work for it. And that's just my opinion about everything as a whole. You can't just want something and then it's magically there. Like, I know that our generation does have that quite often. Like, you know, we can, at the touch of our fingertips, we can pretty much order anything and have it there in a day sometimes. And that is normal for our generation, but it's like, if you really want something, you do have to work for it.
Well, and that's a huge part of my belief system. Like, as you know, I'm a huge capitalist. And if you work for it, you should get it.
Yeah.
And if that gratification is instantaneous, you know, it's just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And, you know, through that method, I know a lot of people amass a lot of things. Like, I know I have a ton of things that I don't need and I probably won't be using in a year's time.
Mm-hmm.
Like my current cell phone, I'm probably going to get it replaced this year.
Yeah.
And I do that yearly.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do.
Like, they're built in to be obsolete in a year now. Like, the minute the new one comes out, the old one's features just... some of them just frankly stop working.
Yeah, and I do, like, in instances where, like, electronics especially, like, stop working, I know there is a point where you do need to replace them. Like, there's only so many repairs that you can do, and I'm aware of that, but I will still try to do those repairs before I just, like, replace my phone every year, you know? Like, I've had my phone for probably about 2 years now, and I got this phone 2 years ago because my previous phone just completely crapped out and there was nothing more that I could do with it. But I plan on keeping this phone until that happens again. I'm not just gonna, like, I can upgrade right now, but I'm not going to.
Well, my whole thing about it too is, like, sometimes those repairs cost more than a new phone. Like, if you have to get it done secondhand, or even sometimes bringing in the parts, the value of, you know, what you're bringing in sometimes far outweighs, you know, the product you're fixing.
Yeah, and I think that when you have a situation like that where the cost outweighs the value, you definitely have to look at it and determine each situation individually. Because when I'm talking repairs, like, there's moments that my phone will start slowing down, and instead of just, like, being like, oh, it's crap, like, no, I know that I have, like, the nature of my job is to have a lot of information on my phone. I do work within digital marketing, and so there's a lot of stuff that I have to have on my phone because of that. So instead of just, like, saying my phone is a piece of crap, no, it's probably slowing down because I have so much stored on there. So I'll go through and actually take the time to, you know, delete things that I no longer need or move them into my Dropbox, like, whatever I need to do so that my phone is running a little bit more fast. But if I, for example, smash my phone on the ground and it's starting to crap out because of that, I will definitely weigh, like, the cost versus the value and so on and so forth versus getting a new phone. At that point, I think, like, there's only so much you can do. But I take each thing that happens individually and decide from there.
Well, originally one of the main reasons, I'm sorry I'm stuck on the phones thing, but
No, that's fine.
The original reason I went with Samsung was because you could replace the battery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could just pull it out back in the day.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm still with Samsung is because generationally they still perform better over time
Yes.
than like an Apple phone.
I
remember I had like the iPhone 5, and within the first year the battery just started dying. All the systems started like going really haywire. I had at one point factory reset, deleted everything on my phone, and it was still a slow piece of shit. And that was within the first year.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in the along the lines of having a phone, like I also have a Samsung for that reason too, because they tend to last a lot longer than other brands, which I guess we've both done our research on that and are aware of that. But again, I feel like you're still opting to, like, now that the new and the better is out, it sounds like you're ready to replace your phone, even though your phone is still working in correct condition right now. Am I wrong?
No, it works fine. It works fine. Most of the reason why I'm upgrading is because I like a very particular size of phone, and the one I have right now is still too small.
Yeah.
Which, does not help my case. I mean, I didn't think it would, but also, like, to the point that I still keep them. It's not like I've thrown them away.
Okay. For backups?
I have one phone that could be used for a backup for about 4 hours a day.
Okay.
And then the rest of them are just like, most of the reasons I've upgraded are because my phone has like destroyed itself.
Yeah.
And when, I actually do give myself that luxury shop of going in and buying like a new phone every, year at least. Most of the time within that year, I've completely destroyed it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people go through phones fast, so I don't necessarily agree with all the reasons people do go through phones so quickly, but I think if you've completely destroyed your phone, obviously you're not going to go without a phone. So I do understand that scenario, but like to upgrade a phone because you don't like the size of it, I mean, I would wait until my phone is more destroyed before like opting to upgrade just because of a preference,
I mean, I could smack it off the edge of the table right now if it makes you feel better about it.
Yeah, I don't think that'll help you today.
It'd be a really awkward call.
Yeah, right. But I feel like we're just talking about phones too much. Sorry.
It's totally fine. We can get back on topic.
Yeah. I mean, I know you briefly talked about why you're not a minimalist, but like we kind of sidetracked into phones real quick. Can you expand a little bit more though?
Well, I feel like it's denying myself the opportunity to have the access I've always wanted.
Okay.
Like there's always like this little dream in my head as a kid where it's just, I'm rich and I have a lot of stuff. Back when I was a kid, it was a lot different stuff than I want now, but it's still, stuff I want now.
What, you don't want 5,000 Hot Wheels?
How dare you? That's still on my list. I want all of them.
I want all the Hot Wheels.
Even the vintage ones.
I mean, some of those vintage ones, though.
Oh, they're expensive.
They're nice, too.
Yeah, they are good. Well painted.
Great craft.
So it was like, even when we bought our podcast mics, I was so excited to get the podcast mic because I'm like, now I have a podcast mic. And it's like, besides doing the podcast, I'm not going to really overly use them. So it's a tiny bit of clutter. Like, I'll probably use it in a video game.
I mean, I feel like our podcast mics are fine because they're necessary equipment.
Oh, absolutely.
But one thing, like, I get what you're saying. Like, a lot of people definitely have a dream of, like, having a large house and having all these extravagant pieces in there that they just love to look at and whatever. But the thing is that what people don't understand, and I hear this time and time again. When I tell people that I'm a minimalist, most people think like I have white walls, which I do, but that's besides the point, guys.
We couldn't even ward off the stereotype for like 5 seconds.
I mean, I like white walls, okay? Also, my apartment came with white walls. I can't paint them. But I do have white walls, but most people think it's like white walls and like just very little stuff.
Like a toothbrush on a shelf.
Yeah, like very, very little, which is part and partial. And some minimalists do live their life that way. But the thing is, minimalism looks different for everyone. Not everybody who is a minimalist is going to have the same lifestyle that others will have, because some people choose to be minimalists in different ways, and some people, when they're minimalist, it's like they got nothing. It's like bare, like just nothing, and that's how they feel their best self, which is totally fine, to each their own. But minimalism doesn't have to be boring. And that's the thing that people don't realize, because again, when I tell people I'm a minimalist, I think they have this picture in their head of like my apartment being just absolutely bare. And that is not the case at all.
I'm not going to lie. It's what I've been thinking.
Yeah, you haven't been to my apartment yet, but that is not the case at all, because I value things that other people don't. So the reason why minimalism looks different for everybody is because not everyone will value the same things. And I do like a very clean look to my house, 100%, but I love eclectic artwork. I have a collection of books that I will never part with. And I love film and music so much, and have a collection that I won't part with either. And although my collection will look different from a lot of people and may not be as big as some other people's, it's still a collection that matters to me. And I still utilize it and display it in a way where like my apartment is very homey, it's very me, and it's not boring. I have white walls, but you bet your ass that I have artwork up on my walls that mean something to me. And I also utilize like fashion pieces. I utilize as a dual purpose. For example, like I have probably a bigger hat collection than most people, and being a minimalist and saying that is like kind of bizarre, but I love hats, and I think they also, you're able to utilize them as artwork as well. Like I love the craft of making hats, and I think they're beautiful pieces that you can put on display. So like a lot of my fashion pieces, I also double as art. So when you come into my home, you're going to see hats hanging on my walls. You're going to see, I have like a bamboo little clutch that I actually utilize as a magazine rack, or like, well, not a magazine, a notebook rack per se. And yeah, so like minimalism doesn't have to be boring. And again, it's going to look different for everybody, but I just choose to not have excess pieces that don't have a place in my home. You know, like everything has a place and everything is kind of in order, and I do like it that way. And it's not as cluttered as most people's homes, but it's still it's me, you know, and it's not boring.
I think I'd make a terrible minimalist because I just like, my house would just be full of like electronic suits and you know, some good, I'm gonna say glass collection.
Glass collection.
You know, bongs.
Oh, I'm like, what are you talking about? Who collects glass?
I was trying to be professional.
I thought you meant like glassware. I was like,
you know, I got like
got
like 332 mil glasses.
Yeah, like for whatever reason, I just collect glass. It's super great.
No, I mean, it would be funny, and you could probably do a pretty good art project with it. But yeah, you know, I would just probably still amass a whole bunch of things, but minimal, like I could cut the fat out of my life.
And by fat, what do you mean?
I don't know, like just certain things that I currently that I would not mind getting rid of. Like I have 3 TVs.
Yeah, like that is
like
nuts to me.
One of them's in here, but the other two are in my room.
I didn't even realize. Oh, okay, I can see it now.
Yeah, in the winter I turn on the heater right there. Well, we have a heater in the room, and I just turn it on, and then I'll just play video games, and the TV's set on my piano, which I used to play, but
yeah, it's seeing like that's like so cluttered to me. I'm like, that's unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah, I made that problem. Yeah, the rest of my family tries to purge stuff from me all the time, and I'm just, I'm like, I'll look through it in the summer, and then the summer goes by.
And that's another thing that people do is like, I have had so many people say to me, and like it's almost like an empty promise that they continue to make for themselves, where it's like, I'll get to it, I'll do it in the springtime, I'll do it in the summer, like I don't have time for it. And I'm just like, you won't have time for it if you don't make time. Like,
well, my whole thing is I never promise myself or make any promises to anyone else.
mm-hmm.
Like I say, I'll try to get to it, or I'll get to it this summer, but it's no promise. I never promise anybody anything I don't think I can do.
Yeah, so you truly just don't think you're willing to get rid of
a lot
things.
of my clutter, and well, it's not clutter to me.
I mean,
like,
it's clutter to me.
A lot of it is just like that I've kept is tied deeply to like family stuff.
Yeah.
Which I know seems strange, and it's gonna make my house look like a clown house one day. It's just like certain things I did with certain people that are no longer here, and it's like I don't need this, but it matters.
See, and I understand that, because one thing that a lot of people will say to me is like, I just hold memory to this specific item. And I understand that. I do get that. People naturally will have like an emotional attachment sometimes to things. But the thing is that I realized when I started my journey into minimalism was I used to do that as well. I used to have very weird attachments to like the dumbest things. Like there could be a piece of paper with something jumbled on it, and I would be like, oh my God, but it reminds me of this person. And so I would like need to keep it. That's like how crazy I was. But I also lived, like, I had an unstable childhood, I would say. So like if I held something in good memory in any type of way, I used to think that I should keep it forever, and I started to realize like how unhealthy that was. And another thing too is that what I also started to realize is, yes, there are certain things that I won't part with personally, but I will always have my memories. I will always have them.
I mean,
I know what you're going to say.
Dementia.
Yeah, like,
Alzheimer's.
But I mean, at that point, like, it wouldn't even matter anyways.
Oh, no. I've heard firsthand from my great-grandmother it does.
It does matter? Well,
and as it's ripped from you and you forget that you forgot it, it just gets painful.
Yeah, and I am sensitive to that, and I 100%, like, for anybody who's going through that, like, I get it. But at the same time, I just don't think material items equal your memories. Like, I'm a healthy young adult. I'm going to have my memories for years. I don't need to hold on to a piece of paper because I hold a memory to it. I still have that memory in the long run. And there are certain things that I do hang on to, but it's just like a lot less than others do, And I know a lot of people have like a box of belongings that they will never part with. Do you have one? Do you have like a memory box?
I wish I could say it was just a box.
Yeah, and a lot of people, that's another thing that people say to me.
Yeah, it's I mean, a lot of the stuff in my room right now, I won't get rid of.
It's a memory room.
It's not everything in there, but I do have like a drawer full of like old family documents and like heirlooms.
Yeah.
Won't get rid of those. Well, for obvious reasons. Some of them could eventually be worth something and help the family. But, you know, just certain, like, console controllers that are, like, super old and I no longer have, like, the original base to.
Yeah, see, and to me, that's just, like, unnecessary.
It 100% is.
And, like, for me, and I'm going to say something, and this statement a lot of people would probably be shocked by, but if my whole house burnt down, my whole house, all I would want is, my cat. My cat would be, like, truly that would be the only thing that I would actually care about. But I have one small box. And when I'm saying box, like, it's tiny. It fits on a shelf in my linen closet. Like, it is a tiny box. I'd be pretty sad if I lost that box, only because I do have a couple heirlooms in there, and then I do have some photographs, that kind of stuff that I haven't put on display for whatever reason. So I'd be pretty upset about that box, but I could literally, my whole house could go up in flames, and I just like really want my cat, and as long as I have my cat, I would maybe be a little bit butthurt about that box, but you know, I'd be okay. And I think so many people would be like devastated if, and not to say like having a fire would be devastating regardless, but like I wouldn't really care about losing my stuff. I would just care about like my cat.
I know this sounds terrible, but if, you know, my house was on fire in that scenario and I could grab like 3 things, it would be my 2 cats for the first 2, and then the third would be my Xbox.
Yeah, like I wouldn't.
I know that sounds terrible, but out of everything in this house, the third would be my Xbox.
Yeah.
And that's just because I have hundreds, and I mean hundreds of hours devoted to.
And I mean, I guess that's like gamer life.
GL.
Like I could make that argument maybe with my laptop, but I also save everything on like Dropboxes or Google Drive so as to not slow down my computer. So really, I wouldn't be like without any documents that I've written or any work that I've produced.
Well, I mean, like with my Xbox, everything's backed up to the cloud, obviously.
Right? So you'd actually be fine.
It's more the sentimental.
And I'm like, how do you hold on sentimental value to a piece of equipment?
Well, it was the first console my mom ever bought me. Like, and it was a Christmas present. Oh, no, second console she ever bought me. First one was the Xbox original. And then I bought myself the 360. And then she bought me the one.
Yeah.
But, like, I know it sounds stupid, but it's been with me through a lot. Like, it's been with me through 2 failed relationships, and it helped me get over both. Because it's like my own form of therapy.
I get that, yeah.
Yeah.
So you hold value in it, which, like, I mean, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise.
Oh, I mean, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
But to me, it's just very silly. You know?
No, I can admit that it's silly. It's just, it's who I am.
Yeah. Do you not find, though, that because you're not a minimalist, that, like, I always have people say to me that they would like to learn more about minimalism and have me assist them potentially with minimalism because they're sick and tired of clutter and mess? Like, do you have that feeling as well?
I personally like to learn about pretty much everything, so hearing about it is fun. But my whole thing is I don't want to change because my staunch belief is people don't change.
I mean, I changed.
I mean, your core is still the same. You know, in that split-second decision, like at the barrel end of a gun, You're going to make the decision that is most you.
Yeah, and it's now minimalistic values versus hoarder values, which I had in the past.
Well, there was probably some part of you that just wanted to get rid of everything anyway.
I don't really think so.
Like, I 100% know that I've been the exact same person you see here today probably since I was 10 and was able to form a personality.
Yeah, like there are still certain things about me that have always been the same since day one, but I've developed and grown as a person.
Oh, I
and
mean, you
things
can
have
add
changed.
layers, of
Yeah.
course, but your core, I'm going to say program, is still the same.
Yeah, but
And for a lot of people, it lets me see exactly who they are, exactly what they're going to do,
right.
and exactly why they're doing it.
But I guess going back to my question, like you don't find that you're like struggling or you struggle with the feeling of being overwhelmed by clutter or just like messiness in your home?
Absolutely not.
You don't find that?
Nope.
That is so crazy to me. So many, like, and I mean, that's to each their own. Obviously, we have differing opinions, but so many people say to me that, like, oh, I wish I could be a minimalist because I hate the clutter in my household. I hate having to reorganize things and, like, nothing ever seems clean ever. Like, I hear that so constantly. And it just, like, strikes me as very bizarre that people aren't willing to, like, take action if they're feeling that way. And one thing that I kind of want to mention is, like, I'm sure you've heard of the Marie Kondo method.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I've watched the mini documentary.
I have thoughts on the Marie Kondo method. Like,
I believe you've said so before.
So unlike the Marie Kondo method, minimalism focuses on, like, the lack of clutter, whereas the Marie Kondo method, I think it's great for people at a starting point who, like, just need to really hyper focus on, like, getting rid of things.
I just want to ask and make sure this is like the sparks joy girl.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Does this item spark joy? Okay, you can keep it. Are you kidding me? What? Huh? Is that even... Okay, whatever. Anyways, let's move past that because I have thoughts about it. But again, I do think there's a time and a place for the Marie Kondo method. But what I really think doesn't make sense for North American society. It does not. It makes sense. Like, she's Japanese and Japanese culture values, like, A, cleanliness, and B, they turn everything into, what's the word I'm looking for? Like ceremonial.
Ceremonial or an art form.
Yes. Yeah. So, like, cleaning to them is very ceremonial. So Marie Kondo, she will fold things in such an innate and perfect way because it's like, it's a cultural thing. But to me, I'm like, I'm not going to take the time to fold my clothes like that when I can just have less things to worry about getting cluttered and like, hang your tops, first of all.
I mean, I feel like you'd fit in Japan because Japan on a whole, because of, like, the small amount of landmass they have, are a very minimalistic people.
They are, but I feel like the reason why the Marie Kondo method doesn't work for North American society is because naturally most people aren't minimalists, and I think they need to get more comfortable with that idea instead of just, like, hyper focusing on organizing and cleaning, because truly that is a cultural thing in Japan, and that's great for them. But in America and Canada, who do you know that wants to spend their life constantly cleaning and constantly folding clothes in a very specific manner and constantly reorganizing and organizing their items? Like, maybe just have less stuff, and then you're not taking your whole day to clean it. I never clean, like, okay, no, that's a lie. I don't never clean. I clean all the time, I guess, but it's like second nature to me because for me, like everything in my house has a home and it doesn't get messy. I don't have to reorganize my drawers because guess what? They're organized in the first place because everything has a home.
Well, in a lot of ways, I guess my cleaning method is very much like yours. I get my room every spring to a perfect base level clean. And then as the year continues on, weekly I do a clean, but every day I just do small things.
Yeah.
And it keeps my room from, looking like a pigsty.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look too shitty. It doesn't look too worn out. But I will never 100% say it's like fully clean.
Yeah. Whereas like if you come into my apartment, everything has a home, everything has a place. It always pretty much remains clean because I don't have enough stuff to make such a crazy mess. And like when people talk to me about spring cleaning, it just makes me like die of laughter because I'm like, you're taking your time to do spring cleaning. But for me, I just dust everything once a week. And like when I say I dust everything, like I will go around and like really dust my baseboards and like dust blinds and that kind of stuff because if I do it once a week, it's gonna take me 10 minutes. It's not gonna take me that long and it's gonna stay clean and I'm not gonna ever have to worry about spending a whole day cleaning. Like I spend a half an hour here and there just kind of upkeeping my household.
Can you be a minimalist with a Roomba?
Is the Roomba like the vacuum
It's like
thingy?
the robotic vacuum circle. Like, can you still be a minimalist and have a Roomba?
I mean, if that's something you value as a minimalist, then yes. But like, I don't understand the concept. I'm a minimalist and I have a vacuum.
Well, my whole thing was like a Roomba, yes, in and of itself is useful.
Mm-hmm.
It was just more of a question. Like, say you're a minimalist and you have a maid.
I don't think...
Could you still consider yourself a minimalist?
I don't think any true minimalist would require a maid. And it's just like, that's just a bizarre question in and of itself to me because, again, minimalists, like, truly, like, I don't need a maid to come in and clean my house because it just stays clean for the most part. I'm also very just a naturally clean person as is. Like, I can't stand when a bathroom gets super messy and I have to like clean it once a week, like at minimum. Like I have to clean it. And usually like in between cleaning my bathroom, like a full clean of my bathroom once a week, I still keep like a reusable like one of those like cleaning cloths that you can throw in the wash. Yeah, so I keep that underneath my sink to like wipe down my counter every day because I just like don't like the look of a messy counter personally. So I personally would never need a maid because I'm just like a naturally clean person, but I don't think any minimalist would need a maid because most minimalists do become naturally very clean people.
Okay, yeah, it was just something I was curious about. I'm like...
But if, like, they wanted a Roomba so that they didn't, like, if they didn't like vacuuming, I mean, sure, why not? I wouldn't get a Roomba only because I think my cat would destroy it.
Yeah, it's my biggest fear about buying one for this place because upstairs is all carpet.
Yeah.
So I was just like, if I just buy a Roomba, then we won't have to vacuum.
I feel like they're not that good, though, like, from what I mean, this is totally getting off topic. Sorry, Roomba.
Yeah, sorry, Roomba. Yeah, it was just more crazy thought about it. But
to answer your question, though, yes, a minimalist could have a Roomba if they value that in their life. Like, if they really hate vacuuming and they want a Roomba, they could have a Roomba. That's fine.
Okay, if you're pitching someone to become a minimalist.
Yes.
Like, just sell the lifestyle to me.
Okay. So as a minimalist, I tend to have a lot more free time because I'm never stuck at home cleaning my whole household. I never have to do that. It's just always clean. And additional to that, with your household being clean and in order, my head just feels so clear and calm all the time because of it. It's truly like a stress reliever coming home than for most people, which like I know a lot of people go home and actually are stressed out about the amount of clutter that they have. For me, I don't have that. My home is my sanctuary. Everything has a place. Everything means something to me. Everything that I own, I value. And additional to that, living my life as a minimalist, I live my life more sustainably. It's better for the planet. It is more green, if you will. And I'm leaving less of a footprint on the universe, which I truly think everybody should want to do. And with the fact that we live in such a hyperactive, like sustainable, focused society, I am truly shocked to say that I have yet to meet another minimalist.
Well, yeah, today you may have converted some people.
Maybe, I hope.
I mean, not me, but some people.
And I understand, like, it can be stressful to even think about, like, turning your lifestyle upside down and doing that. Like, I get that. And for me, I did it out of necessity, truly. Like, when I became a minimalist, it was more so out of necessity than it was because I just wanted to, you know? Like, I was moving so much that it didn't make sense anymore to live the lifestyle I was leading at that time. So I understand the struggle, and like just wrapping your brain around it is difficult. But I promise you, if you do it slowly and take your time and do some research and even reach out to me if you want, it's going to be worthwhile in the long run, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. And I hope everybody does check out your blog.
Thanks.
Because obviously they should.
Thanks.
If they're at all interested in minimalism.
Yeah, there's a lot of good info on there. I mean, I'm fairly biased, but I've been doing this for a long time, you guys, so I can address a lot of things on there that I can't from just talking one-on-one, unless you want to spend hours with me.
Well, I mean, I already spend hours with her, so you guys aren't missing much.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. That'd be very helpful. Like, all in all, we've kind of got almost this question answered. But what does minimalism actually mean to you?
Minimalism to me just means living my life in a sustainable way that makes sense for me. That's truly what it means to me. And that's not the definition of minimalism at all, but that's what it means to me, is just living my life in a sustainable way that makes sense and, you know, leaves me not so stressed out.
And that is 100% not the definition, having read it moments before the show to get ready.
Yeah, it's not the definition. That's just like what it means to me.
Oh, absolutely. And that was the question that was asked. So
yeah.
We did it.
Yay, answering questions.
We also have a new segment for the show.
Yes, which you guys will hear about. I guess we can talk about it briefly now. Sorry. So every third Wednesday of the month?
Yes.
Every third Wednesday of the month, if you guys tune in, we'll actually be playing a game, which is super exciting. And it's just to kind of break up, you know, disagreeing on everything all the time. But it's actually just a really fun game based on hypotheticals. So tune in on the third Wednesday of every month if you're interested in hearing us talk about hypotheticals.
Yeah, I'm personally quite excited about this part of the project.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of fun. So, back to minimalism.
Oh, we're going back to that. I thought we were done.
No, I mean, we can end now. We are at 49 minutes.
Oh, we can talk more. I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a long one.